Anonymous. It is I, your host, Wise Papa Smurf, rocking the cappy hat, just hanging out with my boys. Tonight, joining me is your friend and mine, consummate co host of the show, longtime guy that's been on the show, Hashisheen.
He
I got that
winked.
one. Yeah, that was a curveball, Blake.
Didn't
That
know
was a
who that was
curveball.
going to.
Yeah. And then also Zill's here. You might know that guy.
Apparently, yeah.
Yeah, you might know that guy. Who knows?
You might have no idea.
Uh,
But
He's
no.
a fresh face, is what I'm getting at. So, Hash, what's up, man?
Dude, nothing. Just everything's the same. Time doesn't make sense. I'm getting a lot of league in, so that's kind of nice.
Well, that's sweet. So,
Um,
like, how is your season so far?
um, I haven't jumped into too much ranked. I've just been trying to like keep myself steady and sane by playing with friends only.
Yeah,
Uh,
see, I've been doing the whole like I haven't played ranked at all. I haven't even tried, hadn't thought about it. Like it feels like a chore, right? Like, oh, I've got to get my
yeah,
ranked games in.
that's
And
my
be
rule. Like going forward for this game forever is if it ever feels like a chore, then I know I'm not going to play at my peak, so it's not worth it.
yeah. And I mean, that's my killer is like is this the season that I decide to like peak again, or is this me just playing enough so I can be like, I have a relevant elo, and then going, like do that again, right? Like I don't
It's
know,
never fun. It's not. It's
and
never fun for anybody.
that's the thing. It's like I've kind of got other shit going on at this point where I'm like, I'm trying to learn the guitar, right? Like I suck dick at it, as Zill can attest. He listened to me practice for like
for like an hour.
yeah,
Yeah.
for like an hour of boarding a train song.
Yeah.
I mean, it was. Ugh. But hey, if Rocksmith is right, I'll be really good
Practice.
in 60 days.
Great. I'm looking forward to speaking to you in about 2 months.
Yeah, so give me one of those like remind me exclamation points 60 days.
I'm not talking to you for 6 months based on how I played or how you played about your guitar.
Yeah, yeah, well that's fair. That's
And
fair.
I think that in 6 months I will hear progress.
And then you're going to like buy tickets to my concert is what you're saying?
Nope. I don't
Yeah.
buy tickets to anybody's shows
Well,
anymore.
I'll tell you what, I'll let you in the backstage.
Oh, thanks. There we go.
You can come with Hash
Okay.
Oh,
as
a
his plus
twofer.
one. I'll
You
give
get
him
two
the
people in the
tickets.
backstage. That's impressive.
Yeah. So anyway, boys, Hazil, how's your ranked experience been? I know you've got some things that you want to say.
I do. I don't know. I played 3 ranked games today. Did pretty well. Riot says I lost all 3 of them, but I think they were fraudulently stolen from me. I think I won by an overwhelming margin, if I'm honest.
Uh,
Um,
are you moving to Florida?
yes, yes. Shortly after I get master, um, which Riot I'm sure will steal from me. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's the first game, right? So we talked about this actually on the last episode, but we got people out there who know what's powerful, right? And they play that, and they don't know how to play it, so they just lose. And those people, are usually what are costing me games these days.
You mean
Also, I
80%
had
of people
a
doing
junk.
that
So
now?
first game, I like my whole thing is like drag control, map control.
Mm-hmm.
First game, we get the first 3 drags, and then our jungler, who's so tilted by our 0-10 Samira, just decides to int when drag soul comes up, and then continues to int every single time afterwards until we lose the game. And that was how my rank started today. And for some reason, I decided to play 2 more games after that, which went about the same.
Well, see,
And
like
then
the fucked up
then I
thing
quit.
about that is like even at 0-10, Samira can win a team fight
Yeah,
because that
yeah.
champion's so dumb.
Well, we had 3 drags. Like Warwick and I were like running the map. We were everywhere that we needed to be when we needed to be there. It's just that Drag Soul was our win con, and he lost his mental ability before the win con approached. So we lost.
Well, that's another policy of mine is that I ban Samira every game.
You know,
It's just the game is so unfun if she's involved.
I don't have a ban for my game. I don't know. I'm not allowed to ban champions anymore. Yasuo has been deleted from my game permanently, but I can't just ban any champion that I want to. It's a weird version of my game that is different from everyone else's.
So I mean, realistically speaking, what does that put you at? Are you 0-3 in ranked, or are you like
Oh
1
no,
and
I did
4? Or like,
placements. Did placements came out 3-7, and then lost 3 more ranked games after that.
Oh no!
So I'm sitting pretty, boys. Let
so
me tell you.
where did you cannonball down to then?
Oh, I was like silver 1, like
Oh
90
shit!
LP. I know. It was bad. So
Oh my god!
I'll get the gold fine. I'm just like Dave, we discussed this last podcast, but basically like playing ranked in January is a terrible idea.
I mean, yeah,
And I
everything's.
decided to just like sink my teeth into it and just see what happens.
I feel
I
like
also
playing
like I'm kind of at a
ranked in
point
January
where
is
like
like going to the gym in January.
I don't really mind losing, or I don't really care what my ranked thing says at this point. I just feel like I need to play the game, and I have my own win conditions for my own self, which is basically to have fun. And as long as I do that, and as long as I'm keep practicing, I think I'll be fine. I'm also playing Syndra a little bit more on the side to get better at that, and
That's
actually
fun.
try to play a real champion this year. So I have things in the works, but right now I'm just taking it easy.
So Hash, what were you saying about January?
I feel like playing ranked in January, especially if you're playing alone, like just absolute solo, is like going to the gym in January.
What do you mean?
It's like
Oh,
New
just-
Year's resolution
Yeah,
shit.
you get all
Like,
the
You're
resolutions.
miserable. All the fat
Yeah.
old ladies are there, and they're breathing on all the equipment.
Everyone shouts at you across the gym saying they're about to use that thing.
Yeah, I got that was perfect analogy, to be totally honest.
That's great.
So, that being said, this season in particular, like I don't know, every preseason is flux, right? You know what I mean? Like there's always massive flux with the preseason. Normally, by the time preseason is over, you've got like a week or two, and they've really ironed out details on like taking the tops off the mountains. You know what I mean? Like the peaks aren't there like usual, and then we're talking about things that are like comparatively broken to other things instead of that thing is an elo warping monster. If anybody has it, we just lose. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, but there are still things that are like comparatively stronger, but it's not really like huge spikes and valleys,
Are you
right?
talking about right now?
No, that's what I'm about to get to. I don't think they've done that yet. Like,
No, I don't think
I
they've
think
done
the
that
game
either.
is still spikes and valleys.
Fuck
Like,
no.
normally by this point in the year, that's ironed out a lot more. I mean, it's the countryside is not flat plains of Kansas, but it's also not like the fucking Alps either, right? It's like, rolling hills or like, some very small ranges, that kind of thing. It's not
Appalachian.
like the game is far from solved, but yeah, like the Appalachians. You know what I mean? That's what we're talking about. So I mean, right now it still feels like it's like I need a fucking Sherpa to play League, and I don't know that I really want to risk my elo right now on just what feels to be a roll of the dice while they sort all of this shit out. Does that make sense?
I feel like the game is super duper fun just to play with friends and try to grasp all the new stuff because like if you just drift away from ranked a little bit, unless you're in that top 1% hyper competitive crowd, um, there's so much material here for the preseason, like more than I can remember in the last 4 years. I think that I've been trying to play a lot. Like they gave us a lot to fiddle with.
I think with items, I think that's not the case with mages at all. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, our item sets have tons of damage, and like I think all the damage across all the items has been amped significantly. But like when it comes to
really
like,
from an ADC and support perspective,
no, yeah, I think bot lane perspective, you're absolutely right, and I think there are some, some junglers and some top laners that have experienced this to some degree. But yeah, I don't know with mages and with team out junglers and things like that. Like we're just kind of like, what the fuck is this? Especially like Everfrost or whatever it is that like glacial item that you like shoot a skill shot out and freeze somebody or something. Like that's just I don't know that GLP was already kind of terrible, and they just like made that worse. And
Hmm.
there's like no interesting utility in any of the other items really. Yeah, like sure, things burn faster. You have two burn items now that are massively powerful. But yeah, I don't know, man. I have not enjoyed the utility from new items at all. They're not that interesting to me. But I've seen lots of cool shit like going invisible as Yi.
Well, I mean,
That's
the things
really
that I
fun.
have trouble grasping right now is like the seldomly played champions that have synergy with some really good items, and I don't see it coming because I don't have the experience with those champions to know how hard they're going to power spike on that item, right? Like,
Mm.
I saw a clip of Olaf just killing the ever living dick out of an entire team 1v5, and I'm like, holy shit, I didn't even know Olaf was strong right now. I knew
Yeah,
Aatrox could do that. And it's that fucking gore drinker, I think, is the item
yeah,
that's
Gordon.
causing
Yeah,
him to go nuts.
Heal 1200 with a Q or something.
Well,
It's
and that's a lot of the problem of the season right now is I thought some of the like life gain shit was going to be dialed back, right? Like there's a shitload of free sustain in the game, and every time they have a meta like that, like I remember the Bloodthirster meta like years and years and years ago, where it was ADCs were not about building crit, they were about building lifesteal, right?
yeah.
And
Because then you can stay in a fight.
yeah, you could just stay in a fight forever, and you could tank like face tank your enemies as long as you didn't, as long as they didn't get on you, then you
Yeah,
were
you can
fine.
keep shooting them. Yeah,
Yeah, like you could perpetually kite and do everything you wanted to do, and you would just win. Um, that meta was shit. Like people did not like that.
I would say you wouldn't just win though. Like it was just you could be in a fight and participate. You didn't have to be two screens away, and like you still had to kite. You still had to play
Yeah.
and dodge hard CC and shit like that. But yeah, you
Well,
could
I
play
mean,
and fight.
so the problem was that people they said no, this is too much. Like ADCs can come back too easy in a fight. Like we can't push them out. They either die or they just kill everybody,
Yeah,
right? And that's what it feels like with some of these, like, well, like your Aatroxes and your Olafs and shit like that. It's
and
like,
your Udyrs and
yeah,
your
it's like
Pantheons. And, yeah,
yeah, I just can't kill them. Like, and I'm never either. We all gangbang that guy, ignoring the rest of the team, or we lose. And if we don't do it exactly right, that guy's going to kill all of us and sustain through it and come out with full health, right?
yeah.
And that to me creates a shitty dynamic. Like that should not be what League is about. And I'm not saying that like I this is actually something that I do believe Riot will address because they have in the past. You know what I mean? Like Riot has addressed sustain on carries when it becomes a problem and when they become unkillable. They've made statements in the last like 6 months that they thought sustain on a couple of these things was getting out of control. But then this, and I don't know how you reconcile those two things, but
Yeah.
I think that like they've never been one for leaving a meta like this for very long. And that's why I'm surprised that we got all the way through the preseason with the life steal shit still there. But I think that's because the spotlight was stolen by like Kraken Slayer and shit like that. Like when you have like Katarina
well, in the assassin
destroying
item
tanks
on
and shit.
ranged carries was like I love Jin, but man, like if I'm saying tone pull Jin back a little bit, like
Right, we have an issue there.
problem
Yeah.
there.
Well, it's like me. I played a lot of Katarina mid. Like that was kind of my go-to mid laner. And I will be the first to admit, Kraken Slayer is the best item on her, or it was until they're nerfing it or whatever.
Right.
But Kraken Slayer was busted on her, and I hated it because I'm like, she should be building Night Harvester. Like that item actually makes sense on her. It does all the things she wants to do. It does pop damage,
I kind of think
and
Night Harvester's broken. Honestly, it's just it's outshadowed by
well, sure,
Kraken
it's
Slayer.
yeah, okay, but I mean, I think Night Harvester is badass on her. I think it's super good, and I think that nobody ever really gave a shit about it because Katarina's shit got completely overshadowed. And I think if they removed that interaction where her ult does a million true damage with ridiculous sustain from Kraken Slayer and everything, then she wouldn't even really lose that much. She would just not be stupid broken. She would just be good.
Right.
So um yeah, I these are the kind of things that I kind of thought would be ironed out by now, which makes me hesitate to play because it does feel like I'm running into whoever picks the most broken. You know what it feels like?
What?
That first time they opened up Earth, right? And everybody had
Oh
so much
God,
fun
yeah.
playing Earth, and then they made it to where it was like people solved it, and they're like, "Oh yeah, with Hecarim you can just go like this on Q and hit it over and over and over and over and over again and kill everybody." Or with Sona, you can do and you kill everybody, and it's totally not fun to play Earth anymore because Sona's in it, or Hecarim's in it, and then it's like, oh, this is now a miserable experience
Right.
because there's too many things that are unbalanceable and broken because the mode was never intended to be balanced.
Right.
But this is solo queue. It needs to have balance, and I still think we're so far off of that in the preseason that we're having a hell of a time. And
Yeah.
at least
I
that's
mean,
where I'm at.
I think so. I don't know. Like you talked about it as like a mountain range, right? And I think that that is very accurate. It's like we've got a lot of champions who are kind of like super broken with certain items, and there's like a slew of them, right? There's probably like 15 to 20, and then there's probably like seven that are really broken. But like I don't know. There's not like I do see a lot of times where like somebody on my team picks the broken champion, right? And it's their main, and they're really happy that their champion is strong. But then another one of those peaks comes up against it, and just because it's ever so slightly ahead or it ever so slightly got its power spike or its item, it just wipes the floor with them and dominates the entire game. It's like both things are broken, but what decides which one wins, has a lot to do with like player skill and stuff like that. What sucks is the people in the valleys, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
where most of us are.
Yeah.
Is because we don't have any impact up on those mountain sides. Like nothing really good happens to us except for what occasionally falls down. It's trickle down economics. We're not really getting a lot of benefit out of it.
Yeah. I think that, like, if you are a champion or if you're a player that one tricks a champion and your champion is not strong right now, you are real not strong right now.
Yeah.
So that's a little rough. And so, like, for me, there's
Those poor Callista mains.
yeah, yeah. For me, it's like I mm, I don't know that I want to play until the game's a little bit more solved because it
Yeah.
just doesn't feel fun. But I don't mind. Like, I'm enjoying the game on normals, but like putting a putting more meaning on it than did I have fun is still a little rough for me because I think the
Yeah.
preseason's still
And
too
that's
volatile.
fair. I'm having a ton of fun with my friends playing norms, and the more people I have a five stack, all the better.
Yeah.
And so that's why, like, I'm still really into this game, and I still really like the competitive feeling that I get from ranked. It's just that the end result, is not tallying to a win for me, even if I play. So I just have to be okay with the fact that like I'm going to lose for a little bit until
I
things get
suspect
evened
that if
out.
people really want to improve, but don't want the headache of ranked, now is like the perfect time to be playing with friends that are willing to do VOD reviews with you,
Yeah,
and just go back and be like, man, I really fucked that up. How did it go so bad? Like,
Well, yeah,
right.
I mean, you'll
spend
have
10 minutes just
like
figuring out like a
less
single play
ego.
of what went wrong.
Yeah, less ego will be attached to it because the games are so.
It's not a big deal if you lose.
Yeah,
Who
it's like
cares?
the game's a fucking kaleidoscope right now.
Yeah,
It can
you
go
can
any
have a real
directions.
honest conversation about what you got wrong if you're not scared about how it affects your rank or your friend that you dragged in with you to whatever nightmare you just fought through.
You
So,
guys notice something?
what?
Uh, Aether Wisp only builds into one item anymore.
What does it build into?
It only builds into Lichbane. Oh, wait, hold on. That can't be true.
Just
Is
say
that? I don't.
that's the one that's like you get
Right.
some
Didn't it go
AP
into
and
other
then some move
items?
speed.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It does build into Lichbane for
yeah.
sure.
But does it build into anything else?
There may be a support item or something it builds into.
I know it went into a bunch of support items before.
Frost says it only builds into Lichbane.
That's so weird, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was in a lot of things before, but a lot of those items I think
At
got
least
scrapped.
three, right? Like it was at least Rocket Belt. I feel no, there was actually a lot of support items that built into too as well. Yeah, that's real strange.
So I didn't catch the show last week because I had a bunch of shit going on. But did you guys talk about the value and importance of seeding your 10 games and all that, or was it just
No,
really
we
about
didn't.
with it?
You can absolutely go over that.
Okay,
Seeding.
so like I talk about this every year, and I'm gonna cover it again this year. Um, these 10 games that you're about to play to seed your rank, like I get asked every year, how do they matter, and what happened to your rank, and blah blah blah. So I'm gonna lay that out there for anybody who I guess is too lazy to use Google. Uh, the way that the ranked reset works is they take your elo, they divide it by an average, and they divide it by a number and then average it. And I think for the sake of argument, let's say that number is 1200. And so they'll reduce your elo by a certain amount, average it out, and then you play 10 games, and those games have hyper accelerated elo gains at that point. So they'll seed you, they'll tell you this is where you used to be, or this is where you will be if you lose every other game that you play in these 10. And then if you win, you get like, oh, 50 LP or 60 LP or whatever. So the games are literally like winning 2 games, if that makes sense. So every win is worth like 2 wins in your first 10 games.
Right.
That's fine. Don't put a ton of emphasis on it. Like, I know everybody wants to do well in their placements because, hey, if you win 10 games, it's like, hey, you won 20 games. Hooray. But in the grand scheme of things, when you play over 100 or 200 games in the season, it's not really all that significant. You know, you'll still climb if you're good. The biggest problem that I think I see like a lot of people have is they'll do poorly in their placements and then it will set their mental state for the rest of the season or at least for a while.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm not allowing to happen to me. Like I went 3-7, right? Like don't give a fuck because I know this is this is a relatively small hill for me to get over. You know.
Right. And I mean, the problem like ranked anxiety and ranked like everybody's like, well, how do you get over ranked anxiety? How do you make yourself play ranked? You get over ranked anxiety by just playing ranked.
That's what
Like
I'm doing.
force yourself to play ranked, but don't put emphasis on it. Right? If you look at ranked as a grind and not a game, right? Like it's not this game that matters. It's the next 50 or 100 games. It
Right.
puts this game into context and makes it much smaller, and then the anxiety goes down because it's just one thing in a series. And yeah, you can lose. And once that one thing, like once that game becomes significant to the point that you get upset or you're playing worse, you should be stopping for the day. And that's how the grind works mentally. And that's how to help turn off your ranked anxiety mentally is to put the game into context. The problem with placements is everybody thinks these games are the be all end all and that they're much bigger and they're much more important than they are. But if you
Yeah.
look at the elo gains and losses, it's like a 2 game for one. It's not that important. If one game is not important, 2 games certainly isn't all that important.
Sure.
So I just wanted to tell people because that is a question that we almost got every single year. Like, what about ranked anxiety? What about my placements? Why am I placed so low? So, like, I'm gonna make again. I don't think I explained the soft reset very well, so I will explain that. So, like, let's say you have 2,000 elo, which puts you in platinum. I don't know 3. I'm just making shit up. But you have 2,000 elo. You're in plat 3. The game will take you, average you out to a median, let's say 1,200. And so you are now from 2,000 elo average to 1,200. So 2,000 plus 1,200 is 32, divided by 2 is 16. So you're at 1,600. Okay, now the game will start you out at, let's say 1,600 is gold 3. Okay, you're at gold 3, and now your placements will cause you to shoot back up or stay exactly there until you complete your placements, and then you are seated, and then you will climb or fall kind of as normal. There have
Right.
been some issues that people have had this year with getting kind of elo fucked, where their elo is not gaining or lowering appropriately given kind of where they're at and what their win loss is, right?
Yeah.
And so, how that works is the game has an MMR, or your ELO, is different than your rank. And the more games you play, the larger the difference in variability that could be. So, let's say that you are at silver, well, there is no 5. I was going to say silver 5. But let's say you're at silver 4 and you win 10 games in a row, right? The game still thinks that you're maybe silver 3, but you're getting increased elo gains as you shoot up the ladder, and your rank may be silver 2, right? I'm just
Right.
making shit up. These are all made up numbers. But your rank has shot up to silver 2, but the game thinks this is an unrealistic win streak unless you're just that so much better that I need to shoot you out of this elo, right?
Right.
So even though you're winning, the game may slow down your elo gains and increase your elo losses unless you threshold it into convincing its algorithm that you really don't belong in silver. Otherwise, it's going to try to rubber band you back down, right? In the same way that if you lose a few games in a row and then you win, your elo games may actually be higher than if you had just won without losing those games. Because it's trying to bring you back. It's like, you had a bad streak. It tries to bring you back up. The game also adjusts with streak damage. So if you are on a win streak, you should get, it will offset some of that negative algorithm by giving you more wins for your win, more per win for your win in a streak. Or you'll lose more for a loss streak. That kind of thing. But the streak has to be consistent and
There's also
long.
like a small comeback one too. Like if you break a loss streak, you get more LP for doing that as well.
Right. So, I mean, these people that are like, oh, I was playing and I've won 5 games in a row and I'm only gaining 7 LP. What the fuck, Riot? They may be right. It may be a what the fuck Riot scenario. Or it may be that they had lost a series of games before that or won a series of games before that, such that their MMR is significantly off what their rank actually is. And that's usually what creates those problems. It is something that you see a lot in the beginning of your season, particularly if you blow up your placements.
Right.
So,
Which kind of gets back to your point of just everything will be fine.
yep,
Don't worry about the first 10 or 20.
don't worry about the first 10 or 20, just play it. And like I said, if it's starting to affect if the outcome of a game affects your mental, don't play anymore. Take a break. Like, and I don't mean take a break for 10 minutes because that is not enough time to recover. I mean, play a different game for a while, then come back to it.
If I lose and I don't feel tilted, I take a 10-minute break. Even so, I mean,
Yeah.
I never.
I mean, it's
drifted
just a
them.
good plan.
If I'm tilted, I stop playing for at least an hour. You know,
Dude, if I win
do something.
and I'm tilted, I have been
Oh,
tilted
sure.
from
Yeah, yeah,
wins.
yeah.
Like, win or loss doesn't matter. It's all like mental fortitude. Like, you have so many mental points to expend in a game, and my reservoir is pretty fucking deep. Like, it takes a lot to tilt me off the face of the earth. Some people have like a nickel,
Yeah.
worth of mental energy that they can spend, and then they are fucking shot. They bought one piece of gum at the gas station, and then they are fucking tilted as fuck, right? Like, that's it, you know.
Yeah.
And so, like, those poor sons of bitches, like, they're their own worst enemy, right? Zill's jungler on the other game with the Samira bought his piece of gum at the gas station and cashed out with his mental ass energy. Just bottomed,
Like
right?
we had the game won if he just would have stayed alive for Dragon Soul. That's all he needed to do.
So, I
Nope,
mean,
Okay,
couldn't handle it.
what are your guys' anti-tilt mechanisms? Like, what do you guys deliberately do outside of just taking a break? Like during that
well,
break,
okay,
what's your reset button?
so we had talked about this earlier. I think you and I actually talked about it, and I said you really just
I think we
can't,
did about a year ago.
yeah, you can't focus on anything other than your own play. Because, like, so in this, I would lump into minimize external tilt,
Mm.
right? Like, right off the bat, anything that you can't hit a button and change needs to not tilt you.
This is like the 12-step program, right?
Yeah, well, essentially. Yeah, that's what I. And then you've got to stop drinking. Like
Recognize the
right
30.
there,
No, no,
You
no, no.
you put down the sauce,
Sorry.
and then you'll play a lot better. Actually, that is true. Don't play drunk or high. Is another big one, but that's just to minimize elo loss. You might actually that might prevent your tilt. Like a lot of people are like, I play stoned because then I don't get tilted, and you play like shit too. Like it's like okay, well, whatever. Like I have never, ever, and I'm sure I'm gonna get an email about this. I've never played with somebody who I knew was stoned, and then I was like, this guy's playing really well right now. I'm like, it's more like this guy. Yeah, I know I'm going to. I play so much better stoned. I'm a wreck when I'm not totally blazed. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Like, I went to college. I get
Yeah.
it. But I didn't,
This is
I didn't play Mario Baseball super well. You know what I mean? Like, that's a bunch of bullshit. Like, I enjoyed it more. And if
yeah.
that's your goal, go ahead, rip it. But if it's not, then fuck, man. Like, you're not, if your goal is to win, that ain't helping you. Right? Like, I'm not going to be like, man, I get so nervous when I take
You want to play
tests.
inside, that's fine. If you want to play a sport, which is what ranked League of Legends is, probably not. But
Well, oh, fuck, I wouldn't like go in and be like, man, taking tests makes me nervous. I better take 6 bong rips before I do the SATs. And if you think that's stupid, like, then what the fuck are you doing? It's the same shit. Like, you have to use a ton of mental energy to play League of Legends. It's a ton of thought and planning and recognition and problem solve. Like, it's all those things in a split second. How does, like, being stoned help you in that? Like, it doesn't, right? Realistically, or drunk. But That's not what I'm talking about. Is minimize. Well, I guess it is. I'm talking about minimizing external tilt, and that is external, and it's causing you to play worse. So whatever. But whatever I mean by that is like I'm not playing support this season because I failed. Well, at least I'm not maining support. Maybe I am. I don't fucking know. We'll see
Did
how.
offer to carry my kicking and screaming
Yeah. Okay.
in the
So
bot lane.
so maybe I am. I don't know. But the reality is like the reason that I started playing mid in the off season was because I couldn't control getting tilted from external tilt in the bot lane because I was in a like prisoner's dilemma of like do which I'm not using correctly, I know that. But do I bring in my own ADC and then I lose because I have all of our eggs are in the basket of bot lane and my
Right.
top lane and my jungle gets crushed?
You're duo queuing anyway, so
Yeah,
like your MMR rate is higher. So
and it's
like
higher
fuck,
and fuck,
what do
like
you do?
what do you do there? Or, but I'll have somebody who I know will actually follow me on shit and do shit and be good because I brought them. Or do I not do that and then get paired with a paste eater and well maybe my top lane will win, who knows? But this guy's like drawing pictures with his own poop while I'm trying to like lane phase. And I'm like, I can't do this shit anymore. It's so frustrating because I'll go set up stuff and then I'll just die because this fucking moron belongs in a rubber room and I have to lane with him. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't take it anymore.
I think
But,
for me, this is purely anecdotal, but after trying both, my best results for for both the results in the game and how my brain functioned outside of the game were playing with a person that I liked. It didn't matter the role. Because if you can stand being that emotionally escalated and focused and at times stressed out with this other human being for over the course of a season, actual hundreds of hours, that's where you're going to do your best.
Hey Hash, remember when I played Brand with you bot lane and I into my face?
No, no, I don't. I don't remember that. Because we're
You don't
still
remember that?
friends.
That was
We're
like
still
this
friends,
week.
right? I don't remember that because we're still friends.
Oh, okay. Holy shit! All right, I got it. Got the picture.
so, I
Fair.
mean, that's actually what's funny is you're like, yeah, I'll play with somebody you enjoy. And I'm like, yeah, that's a low bar. You're like, for hundreds of hours. And I'm like, oh, there it is. There's the high bar. Like, oh,
I mean,
fuck.
having a solo duo partner that you really commit, it's like a marriage, man. I mean,
Yeah, it
It
is.
is
It
like a
is.
a
fucking
lot of
marriage.
time.
Yeah, and if you
You-
aren't fighting,
You've got to
something's
work
wrong.
on emotional boundaries. You've got to work on managing stress together. You've got to work on managing resources. It's all the same.
Yeah. Joint bank accounts, it's identical. Yeah.
It really is.
So, but I mean, fuck. So, like, minimize that external tilt, and that includes your duo partner. If your duo partner tilts you, you have a shitty duo partner. It doesn't matter if they're the best player in the world. If they tilt you, then they're not making you better at all. They're just carrying you. Does that make sense? Like if you're winning games despite them tilting you, that means they're making you play worse and you're winning anyway. Which is just really being carried. Because if your win or loss doesn't matter about how you're playing, then what are you doing? Ranked is about you getting better, not getting
Right.
free W's. Right?
Um, and I hope other people can chime in, chat about this at some point. I guess when they listen to this episode, maybe interact with us via email. I hope I get a better review than he sounds like a rapey big bird off of this point.
I forgot that was your review
Uh,
from a long time ago.
yeah, that was the
Oh
first review I
shit.
ever got.
Yeah,
I treasure that. I hold that in my heart.
rapey big
I know.
bird.
Mine are. I agree with you and not Blake, and then yours is like
Yeah.
atrocious.
Yeah, you're right, Zill. That was a negative review.
Anyway, the
Nobody should agree with you and not me.
Whatever,
Terrible,
man. I'm
terrible
just telling you. No, no,
dumbasses
no,
that
nobody's
negative.
taken the position on this podcast of telling people they're wrong for so long. They have someone come along, like me, come along, and I'm like, it's fine. And they're like, I like that guy better.
Yeah,
It's like,
you have someone
it's
that
like
comes
a
along
hit,
and
a low bar.
yeah, you have someone who
So,
comes along and enables them, and then they're like, yeah,
exactly.
this guy, yeah.
They have friends, right?
No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, that being said, so like, okay, back to the list here. Minimize external tilt, right? And so we talked about a couple of the ways in which you would do that. Um, I'm gonna wrap it out with like, you can't control anything anybody else does. Don't try to, right? Like, don't get tilted about it. Try to send them pings, let them know what you're doing. Those are things that you can do, right? Like those are things that you can do. You're putting it out there. That's your job. If you stop doing it because somebody's not responding or because they're blah blah blah, you're actually developing bad habits and setting yourself up for failure if you quit doing your part, even if it's not being responded to, because next game it might be responded to,
Next
and if you
game,
stop doing
next
it,
game, your responsibility is still going to be there. And if you can't be relied upon because you're playing differently now because of how the last game went, then fuck, you just let tilt ruin your
yeah,
ranked progression. Yeah, congratulations.
right. You have to keep yourself accountable, right?
And,
So
I think that's actually my biggest difficulty right now is see I have either like a no communication policy where I don't say anything or I just say like dumb funny shit at the beginning and then don't talk most of the time. Or I try to get involved in the shot calling process of the game because I kind of do think I know what needs to happen next. And that's when I start getting invested with shot calls. Like that's what emotionally
like,
tilts
oh, they're
me.
not
If
doing
somebody
my
if somebody
thing.
doesn't go to dragon when it's time to go to dragon, and I said it was time to go to dragon, and they didn't. Oh my god! Now I have to tell everybody that they're wrong. Like I get that like pressure on me to like get mad about it, and that
Right.
is I have to like pull back from that almost every single time. But that's where I am tilting as far as that goes. But yeah, as far as external tilt and all that kind of stuff. I mean, for me, it's always been have a win con that's not winning the game. Like do something that you have a goal in mind of something that you want to accomplish, whether it's get better at X, Y, and Z skill. Trading stance is usually one for me during lane phase that I always have to kind of improve and work on. So try to get 3 good trades off in a lane phase in a row at the very beginning. Like that's a great goal for me because I'm usually such a passive laner, right? And yeah, if I do that, like that's great. And then what's the next goal? Next goal is I don't know, get the first dragon or at least get vision for dragon, get dragon set up and ready to go. Things like that for me are what make me happy that I did well at the end of the game. And even if I win, I'm kind of like, or didn't win, I'm like, whatever. It's
Well,
not a big deal.
and one thing
It's
I
not
will
as big of
say
a
is like
deal.
the good thing about what you're saying is you don't have to fix everything wrong that you do in one game.
No, you don't.
And like people want to focus on their mistakes and be like, "Oh, I fucked up here. I should have done this. Oh, I fucked up here. I should have done that." Well, like you can't process all that at once. Like it's not possible to sit down and be like, "Okay, I made these mistakes. I'm never going to do any of those things ever again."
Yeah.
Right? Like that's not possible. So what you have to do is focus on doing one thing really right until that thing becomes second nature until you are comfortable with that thing. And then you can pick one of those other things that you do wrong often and then start ironing that out. Like that's a realistic goal. And so that's I'm going to get to that cuz I want to get to minimizing internal tilt, but I have one more external tilt that I think is well and easily minimized. Turn off chat.
Oh yeah.
There's nothing good that ever comes out
yeah,
of it.
I agree with that for sure,
Like
100%.
all the chats, allied chat, enemy chat,
Yeah.
turn that shit off. Like just don't even bother. I have been I have found the game to be so much more enjoyable when I have no idea what the fuck people are typing. Like I have had all chat turned off forever. Like and I don't miss it at all. Like, don't miss it in the slightest. Nothing good ever comes out of it. So, if that's the case, learn to communicate in pings. because there's nothing that you can't say in League of Legends in pings that you couldn't type. You know what I mean? Like that you could type, but you can't put
You
in pings.
know, okay, I agree with you in principle, but those little comments where the jungler's like, I'm going to go to drag after this, seems to hit all 5 team members a lot more than just pinging drag 45 seconds before it's up. You know what I mean? Like it really puts an alert on someone's mind that the jungler is going here. Let's gather, or let's be ready to TP from top lane, or whatever it is. Like I agree with you in principle. Man, in practice, it just feels like it's totally different. It's just like how you balance that and how you say that. Like it can elicit very different reactions from people. And again, it does get people like if you're super invested in a call and it doesn't go how you're going expected to, that does tilt people as well.
Hmm.
So
Well,
I don't
like I
know.
said, I can't control whether somebody's going to be tilted by my communication or
Of
lack
course.
thereof, but I can do all the things that I need to do. I'm going to ping that dragon at 45 seconds. I'm going to ping it again at 30 seconds. I'm
Sure.
going to hit ding, ding,
That's
go,
where I'm going.
go,
Yeah.
go. And like that's to me is literally the same thing as typing. And if you turn off the type, I also don't see like fuck your mother, I hope you die, blah, 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 any of that shit. Or like 3 million edgy teens calling me the N word does not appear in my
Yeah.
chat.
It used to be like that actually, but it isn't anymore. I mean, with
Yeah,
chat restrictions being what they are, like people know they get banned for that shit. So instead, it's like way more passive aggressive these days. I feel like it's
right.
like the
So,
kind of shit people say is like, Timo's inting or whatever they say to me about me. Whenever I die once, and it's like, no, I wasn't inting. It's just that they don't like my play, so now they're trying to get me reported or punished in some other fashion. They're being catty about it. They're not actually
right.
like saying
Well, it's
fuck your
like
mother,
I
kill
would
yourself.
rather just not have to deal with any of that catty
Well,
bullshit.
of course, of course.
So I just turn all that
So
shit
turn it off.
off,
Yeah,
and
same
then
principle.
it's also a lot easier to focus on the game whenever
I think
I am
if
only looking at the shit I am doing because it makes it into a bot game.
well, also if the worst that you get is a uh, Wise Papa Smurf is alive. Wise Papa Smurf is alive. It's not going to tilt you nearly as bad as reading some heinous, awful, like 4chan/B nonsense.
Hmm. Oh, speaking of that, I just want to do a community shout out. My Twitter got hacked, apparently. I got it back. I reset my password. But if anybody got like porn from my account that's weirder than the usual porn I send out, let me
Mhm.
know because that
Who
was
wants
the
it?
that was the
That was
hacker.
me.
That was
Yes,
that was Zill. Zill hacked
yeah,
my shit.
it was me.
Some weird shit. No, I'm just kidding. But I did get hacked actually. So if anybody got some like DMs from me or something, let me know because I haven't sent any.
I did get DMs from you, but it was gobbledygook. I just
They,
assumed it was a mistake.
oh really? Did you really?
Yeah, yeah,
God damn it.
I know.
So anyway, yep.
I assumed you were trying to set up a poll about what champion I should play this season.
No, no, it was some asshole who hacked my account, I guess. So I changed all my passwords. We're good again, but uh, it's annoying. So yeah, guys, if you got something weird, it wasn't me, but I got it back now, so we're good. Uh, other than that, now second part, internal. Like I told you to minimize the external tilt, maximize internally what you are doing to better win the game, right? Like this is now your goal. We are going to focus on the things that you can do, the buttons you can hit, how you communicate, how you hit spells, whether or not you're holding your summoners too long, whether or not you are maximizing your impact on the game, and how you can better communicate those things without typing them, right? Like if you're going to the dragon, you should be pinging drag, 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 drag 45 seconds, 45 seconds, 45 seconds, on the way, on the way, on the way. You know, if you're going to back, ping your back, and then go get dragon. Like, these are things that you can do to better communicate your intentions to the people around you and increase your odds of success and people following you. Like, I don't ever see anybody pinging back. but they could. Like ping the back, ping the dragon. So everybody knows, oh shit, I need a back right now so we can all go get dragon. Ping somebody's TP, ping dragon. Ping somebody's TP, ping the bot lane ward that's behind the ADC, right? You can call for a gank that way. I never see that done. These are plays that are open to you and available to you that you could call for if you were communicating that most people never even consider. Because like, oh well, it's the top laner. If he's good, he'll gank me. Like no, ask him, make him better.
Yeah.
I feel like that is way less tilty for demanding than typing show up now, gank me now.
Mm-hmm.
Because that usually ignores the texture of the top lane. Let's be real. Most ADCs aren't looking at like wave management or CS or items, right? When they say I need help, I need help, I need help. So if you're typing obnoxious things, it's probably a little bit worse than just pinging the summoners, pinging the ward.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing I would tell you is give your teammates the benefit of the doubt. Yeah, I know this is hard for me. This is super hard for me. So, uh, here's why I say that. Like, let's say I do that play where I ping teleport and I ping my ward and I ping my ward and I'm like, this is a double kill right here. He's got it. It's a double kill. And he doesn't come, right? And, we have a fight and then me and my partner die and the guy just never showed up to get his double kill. Or he does show up and it's like 3 or 4 seconds too late, right? The natural human response is to be like, that motherfucker! I told him to get down here. He didn't come. He's a shit player. I'm losing because of this moron.
Yeah.
Right? However, give him the benefit of the doubt. Oh, he must not have been able to come because something was happening top lane that I'm not looking at.
Yeah.
Right? Like, maybe he had to clear a wave before he could get there, or the other guy would have interrupted his teleport. Maybe the jungler was there and I didn't realize it and he couldn't teleport until he backed off to his tower. Maybe, you know, whatever.
And I
100
think
different
I
reasons.
think it's easier to do that when you can think of a time where you've been put in a situation where it like looked like you were writing your name with poop on the wall, right? Like, but that it wasn't that you were just mistaken, or you just weren't paying attention to the map like you should at that very exact moment. And for me, this was very recently. So it was like a situation where they were pushing with 3 players in my bot lane. They were getting in him. And then 4 of my teammates, we were behind, but 4 of my teammates went to meet them. And then I didn't collapse as 5, right? I thought they could probably handle it. And instead, I proxied the wave. This was like around like level 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there. So it's starting to get kind of late game, right? And I thought without the wave, they won't be able to push through all the towers, and my team will probably kill them, right? Well, it turns out that Jin had 2 beefy boys who tanked all those tower shots for him, and he was able to like lay waste to our base. And to my teammates, it didn't look like I came to help. It looked like I farmed instead, right? And I thought I was helping, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
And so it's just like put yourself in a situation where like you've done that and it looked like you felt like you were doing something smart, but instead you were doing something stupid. Whether you were split pushing and got caught out too far, whatever it is, it's
Well, I
like
mean, there's like literally no difference in League in
right,
making the wrong call and hitting the wrong button,
right,
right? They're
right,
both mistakes that result in loss. It's just like one of them is super easy to recognize.
right,
Like, oh fuck, I hit my ult instead of my E, right? Or oh fuck, I did whatever dumbass thing that I'm doing, right?
right,
But making the wrong decision, people take like hitting the wrong button. People don't go, I'm a fucking terrible player. This impacts how I view myself. They're just like, oh, I'm a dumbass. I made a mistake. Whoops, right? And it's almost easy to accept that as failure and move on from it. But making a bad decision, people will attach to like the core of their being, like it's a pride thing,
Yeah.
right? Like I didn't make the wrong decision. This is fine for 100 reasons. Like no, just eat it. If you made a
We've
wrong
never
decision,
had
think it's
people not become friends anymore in our Discord channel over somebody pressing the wrong button. It's always happened over shot call differences, right?
mm-hmm,
If it's game related anyway. It's always over that. Because
always.
like your philosophy, your reasoning, your character is like on the fucking line,
Yeah.
apparently.
Well, I mean, and there's a ton of times where like I have
Yeah,
like
I
I
hated
have
Blake for years.
do I
What's that?
I said I hated Blake for years.
yeah, still do. You know, still do. But I mean, shit. Like there's definitely times where I've said to people like, "Why did you do that?" Or like, "Where were you?" And then they told me, and I went, "Oh, all right."
Yeah, if you're
You
in
know,
this
I mean,
Discord server and playing with Blake for like longer than 3 months, you will have a fight at one moment like that. And whether or not you stick around is whether or not you're a bigger person and you
well,
can
I
get
mean,
along with people you
like I
disagree with.
said, the reality is like a lot of the times my intention is to like smooth out and the thought process and say, okay, either you made a mistake and we need to fix that, or I'm not understanding why you did what you did.
Right.
And oh, if you had a good reason, like how many times have you I've said, oh man, you should have been there, and you said, oh, I was doing this other thing, and I went, oh, okay,
Yeah, you're exactly.
No,
I've
and
also
literally
like
in
learned
the last
how to
minute.
explain that, and a lot of people don't have that ability sometimes. Like they can't tell you what they need or what they were thinking, and so they just like come up with an excuse,
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
like that doesn't get anywhere either.
now
Just
that
don't do
actually
your
goes
job.
the opposite direction with
Providing
me because I'm
information.
like, don't make
You're gonna
bullshit
hold their ass
excuses.
to fucking fire with an excuse.
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, it's like, dude, don't make bullshit excuses because then you're actually putting barriers into the way of your own self improvement.
yeah,
You know, and that's why it doesn't sit well with me. It's not like I'm like, you're a fucking liar, asshole, fill in the blank guy. You know, I don't give a shit about that. It's more like, dude, if you don't even recognize the shit you are doing wrong and you're making excuses for the shit you're doing wrong, you will never get better at the game.
yeah.
And then
What were
it's
you gonna
like,
say,
then
Hatch?
what are we doing? You know, like why are we playing if we're not trying to get better,
Yeah,
right? Like what's the point? So I don't know, maybe that's like a fundamental like that's hard for me to shake. And I think a lot of people take it like take criticism from me like I'm attacking their character, and that's not really what it is for me, but it comes off that way because I have like I don't know, an aggressive demeanor.
There is a split though that I think is worth recognizing. The difference between I just want to chill out, smoke a doobie, fuck around with some games with friends,
right.
and
Sure.
every decision I make is open to criticism and let's get better together. You know, those are two
Yeah.
very different gamers.
Yeah, no, that's
And
true.
and Blake, I think, looks at every gamer one way, and not everyone falls into that camp.
Well, what's weird is I'm also oddly duplicitous when it comes to that because I can play games that have nothing on the line and play it like, oh, we're all just out to have fun. Who gives a shit if we all make mistakes?
Right.
I can do that. But like, if you take me into a ranked environment or you tell me, well, hell, I default to kind of a coaching mode. But if you tell me specifically, like,
That's what we're talking about.
yeah, if
I don't
we,
think it needs to be ranked. I think it just anytime I've seen you with 5 people, you are very much in game improvement mode.
yeah, I mean that's true. But if we're like, if I'm playing with a guy who's like new to the server, or if we're just having funsies with like low elo guys that aren't about improving, then I just go, okay, I wonder how hard I can carry, and there's some like duplicity, I think is the word I was looking for on that. It's a word, Zill. Don't
Yeah. You
give me
said
that face.
duplicitous first, and it got me.
Yeah,
Duplicitous is also a word.
it is, but it is more nefarious than anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. But regardless, yeah, I mean, I think I can do that, but I do default to coaching. I do recognize that because, like, that's what a lot of people ask me to do, and then I don't. I'm not great at turning that shit off.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's fair.
Yeah, same.
Okay, so I have a thought I want to like throw at you guys. That's kind of it's half cocked at this point, but like I want
All
to
right.
see your opinions on it. So one thing I feel like I've noticed in the ranked games that I've been playing lately is it is not that any particular person is better or worse, and there are usually equal numbers of broken characters on both sides. Um, like as much as I meme about it's because so and so got tilted and inted, or it's because so and so is a paste eater. Like it's not. I think this is the real reason I'm seeing um, my team lose or a team lose versus another team, and that is people just aren't on the same page. Like they don't have the same play styles, they don't have the same goals, and they may be of equal skill according to Riot matchmaking, but their like instincts, their impulses are less aligned than the other team. And so when it comes to the decision of should we fight here now, should we group as five now, should this person teleport in and save our asses, like those decisions that are a split second are reliant very much on instinct and experience and people's familiarity with the champions that they're playing with. That like that being off center at all for multiple decisions in a row is why that team is losing.
Well, and there is something to be said for that too, because the problem is the lower on the elo ladder you go, the more variability there is on why they are the rank they are, and instincts are all over the board. Right? Like
Yes.
you get a
Yeah.
more like homogeneous player base at diamond than you do
Right.
in bronze. Like bronze players can be good at maybe one thing or two things and bad at a whole bunch of other things that are all completely different, and that's why they're there, right?
Yeah.
Diamond players generally, and you will find that what I am saying is dramatically not true whenever you get to Diamond 4, but Diamond players generally kind of have a level and then they'll peak at certain things, right?
Yeah.
But there are also people that I'm like, how the fuck did you get to Diamond? Because none of the shit you are doing makes any
Sure.
fucking sense, right? So
Yeah.
there's always that. But, like, that being said, it feels like instinct and things or the lower you get on the ladder, the more wildly different they can be.
Yeah.
So that brings me back to the whole like you have to communicate the shit out of your intentions. Like I was watching I paid
But also certain characters that are played more often and have very like set like I know for instance how an AP Malphite's going to play, right? Whether
Hmm.
he's on my team or the enemy team. And that's how for me like mechanically it might be difficult for some people to flash a Malphite ult. I always see it coming a million miles away even though I'm old and slow. Like because it's very telegraphed. It's very easy to understand. I think Echo players are also very similar and like they have a very like you know how they're going to play. I don't really know how a Zillion's going to play. I see passive Zillions, I see aggressive Zillions, I see weird Zillions like me, like and then there are like and there's other champs like
you
that. So basically,
see
like
you
if
see
you're the
passive
Graves who
aggressive
doesn't play like
zillions.
a Graves player normally does, if you have some sort of off meta different strategy shit that you pull, then you are putting your team at like a disadvantage because they can't read you as well, and your instincts are different. If I expect an AP Malphite to ult and he doesn't ult when I expect him to, he's more likely to fuck me over in a fight because I was expecting to follow up after those things. I don't know. That's what I'm kind of getting towards. Is like, I think, in particular for me, a person who likes to do their own damn thing, I am handicapping myself very hard because people don't know how to react to me or how I'm going to play. And I see that even among my own friend group and the people I play with the Lola community, let alone the randos that I acquire in ranked.
Is it accurate to say that as you move up the ladder in general, people become more attuned faster
Yes.
to the
Yes.
texture of the game, and then they
Yes,
adapt
but
Yes.
much quicker instead of putting their ego out there like, this is how I play and I know I'm right, so you guys are idiots and I'm gonna just shout type for the rest of the game when it doesn't go my way.
Okay, so yes and no. So some of the things you said are true, and then other things are actually worse.
Okay.
So like the problem is everybody is generally more proficient at the game. But once general proficiency is established, smaller and smaller things get bigger and bigger levels of importance. Right? So like okay, how do I describe this? All right, if you're in diamond and you're not doing a play for level 2 in bot lane, you're a shitty diamond player, right? If you are silver and you're not doing a level 2 play, you are an average silver player or even above average because most silver players don't bother with level 2. They just don't. They don't know to cap on it, they don't know to move forward into it.
And the
But I
level two
still,
again takes two people though. Like
right.
that's
I mean, I still see that shit in Diamond. Like, people still fuck that up in Diamond, right? Like, that's a problem, right? And I'm like, oh, well, you're a shitty player. Get it? Because you missed that
right.
obvious window. And so people will tilt harder off less because less matters. Like that comes off weird. What I
Little things
mean,
matter.
little
Yeah.
things matter more, not less matters, but little things matter in a greater amount.
Yeah.
Right? Um, so you have the same emotional and mental response, which is people lose their goddamn minds, but they lose their goddamn minds over that instead of that,
Yeah.
if it makes sense. Like, okay,
Okay.
as far as the ego thing goes, egos are actually weird. They're highest uh, in
Isn't it
in
flat?
Silver
silver
and plat
and
and diamond
plat
four.
and diamond 4.
Oh, okay.
And you nailed it because I don't know how many times I fucking said that, but diamond,
Gold has been is always the best elo, and
yeah, gold is this,
especially before you get to right before you get to or gold
yeah,
3 is
yeah.
great.
Gold 3
So,
is great. I think I would rather drink a jar of my own urine than play in plat for too long. It
yeah,
makes me want to die. Like, at least I know when it's over, whenever I'm done with the
yeah.
jar. You know, like plat, it's never over. Those people somehow get to diamond and then get stuck there, and then
And
you're stuck
trying
with
to
them.
carry in silver is also the most toxic thing you could possibly have happen. I feel
Yeah.
yeah, like if you try like silver, you have to just like you have to go with the flow, no matter how stupid the flow is,
Yeah.
and whatever dumb call that the Trendemir who's really far ahead wants to make, you just follow him around and do that.
It's so like to get back
Or
to
let's
my what happens
yeah,
in diamond
follow the
thing.
least common denominator.
Say what'd you say?
The
It's
Pat?
he
hard less.
says the lowest
Sure.
common denominator is
Yeah,
what it
it's
is.
very much so. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
So it's like I said in the diamond thing, it's like, oh, you took, you accidentally took one of my CS in lane, or you're trying to help me push and I don't appreciate it. I'm gonna int, right? Whereas in silver, I mean, they may still int for that because people are just stupid, but like because they inflate how important that is because they're so good that if you take,
Hinting at silver is like roulette. Like
yeah, I
it might
mean,
all work out.
I feel like last
You don't know.
season in particular was a game of like I'm holding in my hand dynamite, like 10 sticks of dynamite, and I'm holding them by the fuse,
Right.
and they're all lined up right here on top. And when the game starts, I just swoosh fire across all the fuses and light them simultaneously, and the game goes on. I have no idea how long each fuse is, but they're all concealed from me, and some of them are very, very long, and some of them are very, very short. And eventually those things start exploding. And I hope to God that the game gets over by the time the ones that have my team's name on them explode. Right? Like, I hope I got the long fuses instead of the short fuses, but that's going to
There's
determine the
so many
outcome.
things wrong with this analogy.
What, that I'm holding dynamite, that the fuses are in my
Everything's
hand,
by the fuse.
by
That
the
the fuse is
fuse.
still saying look through your hands that when one blows up, the rest aren't going to blow up. But
Well,
anyway,
I'm assuming some
Still,
very
you are
durable
trying to
dynamite.
hold an academic level of scrutiny to a man wearing a Mario hat.
I see.
Yeah.
I
I
see.
mean, I was a high jumping toad 15 minutes ago. So, yeah. Anyway, uh,
Too many bong rips.
yeah. So I mean, that being said, man, like, back to minimizing internal tilt because we got to wrap this thing up because we're over an hour at this point. But minimizing internal tilt, like, make sure that you are doing the things that you can do to win the game. Make sure that you are improving. A lot of the things that Zill was saying about setting attainable goals for you to improve on until you can mark something down and then move on to the next thing. Like, that is incredibly important at making meaningful strides to improving. Is like identifying something and then doing it. Like, I was noticing that my ward count had dropped. So I was like, man, I've got to get back to placing that ward at this moment in the game and at this moment in the game every single game. Like, that's going to be the thing that I focus on for the next 10 games. And then I found that in the 11th through the 15th game, I did it just it just happened. Like, I just did it, right? Without even thinking about it. And then I could devote thought onto something else. So if you maximize those things, that will help you a lot. Focus on communication and communicating everything that you can do to a ludicrous degree. And if you do that, then it's somebody else's fault if they didn't follow, but it's not your fault for making the call. Give people credit. Maybe they're not as stupid as you think they are, right? And also, like, be willing to sacrifice. So this is a hard one for a lot of people. It's not really all that hard for me because my brain just operates in this way. If I'm playing a with a partner that laning phase we're just not going to win. Like, it's the game is past the point where I can through individual skill or play sacrifice or salvage whatever has gone on bot lane, right? At that point, I recognize the sunken ship and say, okay, we're not going to win in laning phase. I need to win elsewhere. Either I need to focus on how I'm going to win in team fights, I need to set the stage for picks, or I need to be roaming to put somebody else ahead to counter the deficit that I have found myself and my teammate in. Right? Like, I need to make win cons. And you don't do that if you are afraid to make sacrifices in how the game is going to go. It is okay if you are no longer the win con. It is really hard to be okay with being no longer the win con when you locked in Draven, right? But that's something that, like, even if you play Draven, man, you're not going to win every laning phase. So if it goes poorly, be willing to cut your losses and don't try to dial it up to 11. Like, it's better to slowly lose until you change phases of the game than it is to quickly lose and make it a foregone conclusion. Right? Like, don't create a self-fulfilling prophecy is what I'm getting at. Like, don't be like, well, this game's over. I'm going to run it the fuck down. Like, well, yeah, now it is for sure. Right? Guys, do you have anything else about
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah.
maximizing you playing for you and stuff like that?
I mean, I play for me, and everyone knows that already. I don't know. Find a way to have fun. Um,
I
I
did
do
have a
that by
point.
torturing people on the enemy team. It's great, even if I don't win.
Hash?
Yeah, you did say that you even matched with someone on a dating site who saw the way that you played, and then they unmatched you.
Oh, yeah. This was about a year and a half ago, but I matched with a Riot employee who found out that I played only Timo and Zillion, and because we were talking about the game and stuff, and then she was like, "No, you're too toxic," and then unmatch.
That's
Anyway,
Yeah,
hilarious,
yeah,
actually.
I did
yeah.
have a point I wanted to get to.
Yeah, shoot.
This is anecdotal, but I wanted to hear from the community if this works for them, if they're willing to try it out. I got stuck in the silver tumbler for a while, couldn't get out. And what worked for me was by playing with four other people that were willing to stomach my level of play, but were far above me. but not so far that I couldn't understand what they were doing. I couldn't do what they were doing, but I could understand how it was being done. And they were willing to just drag me along to see how the game was played at another level.
You're like, how or why?
Both. I mean, they were willing to talk to me about it. They were willing to show it to me. They were willing to through both playing or VOD reviews, like whatever. So like in I guess teaching, there's like a theory of proximal development. It's this happy little zone where you can't do it, but when you look at it, you can understand how it's being done, and then you can try to practice it. And so that's what, as a silver player playing with people that were in high plat, low diamond, was like. Now, for those people, I'm sure that was tough because I was a mess. Like there were a lot of bad habits. Um, but the speed of the game was something that I never would have been exposed to had I kept just playing, grinding it out alone in silver. It was just like it accelerated my learning so much to play with people that were much better than me.
Community games are Monday.
There you go.
So hit us up, guys. Monday, 8 Central. Community games. You too can come play. Or just hop in the Discord on any given night, and there's always people who are willing to play.
It's a lot of people that are fun to play with, not just us. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, even us too. Like, we're around. Ask. I'll
I feel
play
like
with
it's
you.
grown a lot in the years I've been here. Like there's a lot of plat and diamond players that don't really have a big attitude or ego, and they're willing to just hang out and jam. And they'll tell you, like, if you ask them, "What did I do wrong here?" They'll give you a game plan.
I'll tell you before you ask.
Well, you're special. You really
Even
are.
though he's
You are,
not psychic. Yes.
you are the prototype. Anyway, so
So,
that's the point that I was trying to make about 35
That's
minutes
great.
ago.
Yeah.
that's great. I'm glad we wrapped back around to it. So that's awesome. All right. Anything else you guys have? Final words? Anything like that? Announcements? Whatever.
I don't know. One of these days, I'm going to do a solo episode about coffee. I'm getting lots
Nice.
of questions. It's pissing me off.
I dig it.
I know.
So, all right. Other than that, guys, I guess I will wish everybody a good night. Thank you all for coming. Thank you all for your support of the podcast. Remember, we do have a Patreon page, Patreon/Lola Podcast. Um, we still have enough money to cover our expenses, so I'm not terribly desperate. But if anybody feels like supporting the podcast, even $1 helps.
I'm just
Because
saying, you're getting another stimulus package, and it's going to be one you can share $1 of. You should
yeah.
do
So I mean, even $1 helps. 5 is super cool. So thank you. If you are a Patreon supporter, I guess I will do our shout out because I almost forgot to do the shout out. For some reason, my Patreon is not wanting to load. Well, this is piss poor. I think Patreon is down right now.
If you donate $100 to Lola Podcast, I will play 40 games of whatever champion you want me to play and learn.
What,
from
like in ranked,
in
or what are you talking about?
Yeah, it's a Patreon reward. $100 gets us 40 games of any champion. In ranked, I don't care. Whatever you want.
I'm
I'll
gonna
play
go
it.
ahead and say I should not be able to do that.
No, you cannot do this. This is for listeners only.
Because I was thinking about like,
Podcaster is allowed to come with you. Ponders would do this in a heartbeat too, but no.
So, all right, listeners, there you go. I think I'm gonna
Like,
reinstate.
put it in the comments with your donation. Like,
Yeah.
say Zill has to do this.
I think what I'm gonna do is like our Patreon has taken a dip. Like we're probably at our lowest level that we've been at in a year, right? So that does make me a little uncomfortable. We used to do like